Question of the day. Is it better to live in Bismarck, North Dakota or Fargo, North Dakota? Cue the hype video. Just kidding, we don't have one of those. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Brady Duchek. I'm a full-time local realtor here in Bismarck, North Dakota, serving essentially the southwest quarter of North Dakota. So if you're looking to move here, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, jump in the link below to get on my calendar. Whatever method you prefer, I'm good with any of them. If you're looking to move to Fargo, Grand Forks, Minot, anywhere else in North Dakota, feel free to give me a text anyway. I'll kind of help guide you down the right path, answer some of your questions, and then get you connected with a local expert there, depending on what market you're in, and make sure they take good care of you. So without further ado, let's get into Bismarck, North Dakota or Fargo, North Dakota. Okay, so Bismarck versus Fargo. We're gonna talk about cost of living, some different factors that go into there. Talk about the population, age, we'll talk a little bit about the weather and kind of some different activities to do, and then discuss kind of pros and cons, Bismarck versus Fargo. First things first, I'm just gonna run through the numbers here. I took all of these numbers from bestplaces.net, so don't shoot the messenger. I'm just sharing the numbers that they have for us, and I'll give you the numbers first. I'll kind of give my opinions here at the end. So, number one, grocery in Bismarck, 101.1 versus in Fargo, 99.5. And so how these numbers work, 100 is the national average. So anything above 100 is considered a little bit more expensive than the national average. Anything below 100 would be cheaper than the national average. So grocery, 101.1 for Bismarck, 99.5 in Fargo. Health, 94 in Bismarck, North Dakota compared to 95 for Fargo, North Dakota. Housing, which I don't know how accurate these numbers are. I don't know how much I agree with them. But again, these are the numbers that I pulled off of bestplaces.net. So 105.2 for the median housing price in Bismarck, North Dakota, compared to 86.7 in Fargo. So you can see they have it here, Bismarck, quite a bit more expensive as far as housing goes in Bismarck versus Fargo. But if we get into the median home cost, in Bismarck it has it at $318,500 for the median home price in Bismarck compared to $279,500 in Fargo. But the national average they have for the median home price is $338,100, so $338,000 compared to $318,500 in Bismarck. So Bismarck is less than that, but yet they ranked housing at 105.2, meaning it's over 5% higher than the national average. Not exactly sure what's going on with those numbers, but those are the numbers we have to work with, so we're just going to roll with it. Next, we got utilities. Bismarck, 88.5 and 92.3 in Fargo, both well below the national average. And then transportation, 74.2 in Bismarck compared to 77.3 in Fargo, which brings you grand total overall cost of living. Fargo, 90.6, about 10% below the national average. And in Bismarck, they have 95.2, so about 5% less than the national average. And again, I don't know really what's going on with those housing numbers. One thing I will say about the housing numbers is we are looking at just Bismarck and just Fargo. So this doesn't include West Fargo, North Dakota. This doesn't include Horace, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota. Also on the Bismarck side of things, it doesn't include, Mandan, Lincoln, which for Bismarck would lower those numbers. For Fargo, it would raise those numbers, but for this video, for these numbers that we're looking at here, it is strictly Bismarck and strictly Fargo, none of the surrounding towns. Diving a little bit deeper in here, we'll look at the population. Bismarck, North Dakota, population about 73,300, so we're gonna call it 75,000. In Fargo, it's about 125,000, so there's about 50,000 more people living in Fargo compared to Bismarck. Median age, a little bit lower in Fargo, we got 31.5 compared to Bismarck, which is 37.6, so about 6 years younger on average in Fargo. Violent crime, looking at 13.7 in Bismarck compared to 26.5 in Fargo, so almost double the violent crime in Fargo compared to Bismarck. Still below the national average, but violent crime in Fargo much more prevalent than in Bismarck. Try to dig into the family numbers here. It's a little bit Bismarck between Fargo. As far as the percentage of families, households, number of kids per household, stuff like that, weren't really any differences to to point out, so they're pretty much the same across the board. Either way, Bismarck or Fargo, talking about families, North Dakota ranked number 2 according to Wallet Hub as far as best states to raise a family. So whether you have a family currently, whether you're thinking about starting a family, maybe you're not comfortable where you're currently living as far as raising that family, looking to potentially relocate, make sure North Dakota is on your short list, because again, North Dakota ranked number 2 in the country, best states to raise your family. I can speak from personal experience, raising a family of my own. North Dakota, especially Bismarck, a fantastic place to raise your kids. It's safe, it's comfortable, financially, job-wise, education-wise, all of those things that play into this ranking here. Very, very true, very, very family-friendly here in North Dakota, especially in the Bismarck area. Just a quick story on that. Just recently helped a family here relocate here from down south. The wife had never lived in North Dakota. She'd never really been here before. And we were looking at a place, and she was like, there's not a fence. I got kids. I don't know how I feel about that. And rightfully so. It's a common concern for a lot of families, right, is they want that fence and that security. And I kind of talked to her about it and gave her my experience up here in North Dakota, just as far as you don't necessarily need a fence to keep your kids in, because your kids probably aren't going to stay in your yard anyway. At least that's how it is with my kids. We have neighborhood kids up and down the street that I know my kids stay in the neighborhood. As far as what specific house or what specific yard they're in at any given time, I don't really know. It's just that kind of family type neighborhood where you're able to do your thing inside, get some work done, cook some dinner, put the kiddo to sleep, whatever it might be, and know that your kids are out there, they're playing, they're having fun, staying out of trouble, and there's really nothing that's going to scare them. So for this family in particular, moving up from down south, you got rattlesnakes, you got scorpions, you got X, Y, and Z. You don't have any of that here in North Dakota. Crime, very, very low. You don't really see those types of things here in Bismarck. Really, what you're worried about is them falling off a swing, scraping their knee, maybe break an arm. A lot of peace of mind when your kids are outside playing in the neighborhood. There's really not a ton to worry about with that. So, sorry for the tangent. Getting back into the numbers here, I'm gonna compare the weather a little bit, Bismarck versus Fargo. So, rain for Fargo is about 23.7 compared to 18.5 in Bismarck. So a little bit more rain in Fargo, a little bit more snow in Fargo too, 49.3 compared to 46.2. And then also precipitation days, something that maybe you don't think about. So you actually have almost 2 more weeks per year in Fargo with rain or snow compared to Bismarck. Precipitation days, Fargo 99.2 compared to 87.2 in Bismarck. And then temperature-wise, talk about, everybody, North Dakota, it's cold, whatever. A little bit colder in Fargo in the eastern part of the state compared to Bismarck. Average January lows in average January lows in Bismarck, 2.2 degrees, compared to Fargo, the average January lows, negative 0.1. So you're only talking 2.5 degrees difference, but it is a little bit colder in Fargo, a little bit more snow in Fargo, a little bit more rain in Fargo. And if you go north of Fargo, get up to Grand Forks, close to the Canadian border, a lot colder and a lot more snow. Not going to get into that today though. So it's kind of the breakdown of all the numbers. One more thing that I guess I wanted to touch on, Bismarck versus Fargo, just as far as 50,000 more people in Fargo, but yet the Bismarck Parks and Rec Department has more acreage of parks and recreation space. So Fargo has 2,800 acres that their local Parks and Rec Department manages and keeps up, compared to Bismarck, which has 3,400 acres. So when I talk about the Parks and Rec Department here, when I talk about outdoor activities, all of those types of things in some of the other videos, you can see it in the numbers here. Like Bismarck Parks and Rec Department has a ton of things to offer as far as outdoor sporting activities, walking trails, all of those types of things. And they're all nice, they're all comfortable, they're all clean. And so if you look in Fargo, they've got the Red River that runs right through it, right on the border of Minnesota. Probably gonna have more indoor things to do in Fargo as far as, maybe some theater and some music and some shopping and some different, maybe more restaurants and maybe a cooler downtown type scene in Fargo. But in Bismarck, if you're looking more for an outdoor nature, outdoor activity type lifestyle, Bismarck is probably more for you. If you just look at the state parks here in North Dakota, we have 13 of them. Most of them are on the western half of the state. You've got a couple on the east, but kind of more the northeast along the Canadian border. Whereas in Bismarck, we got Fort Abraham Lincoln State Park just across the river here in Mandan. A little bit farther west in the Badlands, you got the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. There's just a lot more outdoorsy nature, hiking, those types of activities to do. Bismarck and west compared to Fargo, Fargo's much more of a big city feel, if you will, depending on where you're coming from. 125,000 people, obviously not a super big city, but for North Dakota, it's the biggest one we have, and they definitely have that kind of feel. So depending on what you're looking for, Fargo's great, Bismarck is great. As far as cost of living goes, there's really not that much of a difference, Bismarck versus Fargo. Fargo comes in here 90.6 compared to Bismarck 95.2. Either way, you're going to be below the national average, and no matter what, if you have a family and you are looking for one of the best states in the country to raise that family, North Dakota ranked number 2. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Bismarck, Fargo, does not matter. Either way, let me know what you think, either from first-hand experience based on this video, whatever it might be. Let me know what you're looking for, Bismarck versus Fargo, west side versus east side. And no matter where you're moving to in North Dakota, feel free to give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I'd be happy to get on a Zoom call with you, jump on a phone call, whatever it might be, answer those questions, make you feel at home, and make that moving process as smooth as humanly possible for you. And if you're looking to move to an area in North Dakota that I don't personally service, I will get you connected with an expert in that local area and make sure they take great care of you. So if you enjoy this kind of video, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of the newest updates when we talk about life in North Dakota.